Tashidaleg, the most respected chairperson, His Eminence Khenchen Rinpochela, co-chair, HOD of Buddhist and Tibetan Studies, Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, distinguished guests, venerable sanghas, and my dear brothers and sisters. Before we begin, I invite you to take a moment and imagine that a time when Buddhist education was not about degrees, certificates, or career prospects. It was totally a way of life passed down through with instructions, teachings, oral transmissions, contemplation, deep meditation, and rigorous debate within the monastery walls. They have only one goal, that was the pursuit of wisdom, to generate the compassion, the great compassion, and to understand or they recognize the realization of the truth. But today, as we stand at the crossroads of tradition and modernity, an important question arises. Can monastic wisdom and modern academia work in hand without, kind of losing their essence? This very questions brings us here together today. And as we reflect on the evolution of my topic, the evolution of Nyingma Lama Sheda, I am reminded with the profound words of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. I quote, "The ultimate source of happiness is not money and power, but warm-heartedness." It is this warm-heartedness, in other words, a great compassion, that has guided the transformation of monastic institution. They have adapted to changing tides of modern education while remaining steadfast in these spiritual values. His Holiness also reminds us, I quote, "While we must preserve our traditions, we cannot ignore the changing world. Education must evolve, but without losing its soul," I unquote. And that is precisely what we are here today to discuss about. The journey of an institution that has upheld its sacred tradition while stepping forward into the academic world. So without taking much of your time, I will briefly highlight a few important points here. First, let me provide an introduction to the historical perspective of monastic institution and meditation center. Here I am talking about the Sheda and Dubda. Let us begin with the fundamental question: what is Buddhism? Dating back to the 5th century, Acharya Vasubandhu in his Abhidhamma Kosakarika stated that Tembe Tamche Namni de Lungda Tokbe Dani do Dizin Cheba Merjeba Tuber Cheba Konains. The sacred teachings of Buddha are of two types: scriptural authority and realized knowledge. Those who uphold them are the one who explains, engage in discussion, and practice to accomplish them. Accordingly, Buddhist education fundamentally rests upon two main aspects. One is scripture authority and other one is realized knowledge. Scripture comprises of three collections known as Tripitaka, Dönösum, the Sutra Pitaka, the Abhidhamma Pitaka, the Sutra Pitaka, and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. Realized knowledge is characterized by threefold training, three siksha, or lam labasum, encompassing discipline, concentration, and discriminating knowledge. These teachings are sometimes described as the Buddha's word and the treatises found in the sutras and tantras. As it is said in the sutra that chönam thamjeka dang tenjeni lekbar sungdan di gongdelwa di wangi shage tembadi jikten khamdi yuring nebargyur. All dharma teachings are included in Buddha's words and treatises. The excellent speech and commentaries on its intended meaning. By means of these, the teachings of the Sakya will remain for long within this world. Collectively, these teachings form the Buddha Dharma, or the teachings of Buddha. as preserved and transmitted through sutras and tantras, widely known as Kangyur and Tengyur, consisting of more than 300 volumes. Simply, in the individual liberation, the Sutra of Individual Liberation states that Dikpachiya Mijashing Gyawapunzum Sokarache, Rangi Semne Yonsudu Dinesangitembai, not to commit even a single unwholesome deed, to accumulate merit, and to tame your mind is the teaching of Buddha. And within this stanza, the entire, threefold teachings as well as the three scriptures are consisted. Therefore, these teachings are studied in two main institutions. One is monastic institution, which we call Sheda, and one is meditation center, we call Dubda. Without these two, there is no hope for Buddha Dharma. When we are finger pointing to Buddha Dharma, these two aspects or the pillar are very must and very important. These are the fundamental. Whereas not going into the deeper level of this thing, I just want to come to the context of Sikkim. In the Sikkim, the Dubda date back to the 8th century, as Ken Rinpoche rightly pointed out in the morning session. And with the introduction of Vajrayana Buddhism in Sikkim, and the 25 disciples of Guru Rinpoche, Jebang Nyanga, and the entourage. For instance, the existence of Dubda can be traced back to the arrival of Rigzin Gyodemchen for the second time in Sikkim, because he visited in Sikkim for the first time in 1373. But when he visited for the second time in 1374, he stayed at a place or the monastery called Dingchen. So this is very important. There was a monastery existence before the arrival of Rigzin Gyodemchen. So this can be traced back. That means there might be hermits. Likewise, Tangdong Gyalpo's presentation is also very important here. In the eastern part of Sikkim, nearby Barapating, there is ruins of Churtans, Dochurtan, which is believed to be the erections of Drupchen Tangdong Gyalpo. So this also clearly indicates that there were the meditation centers during the time of Rigzin Gyodemchen as well as Drupchen Tangdong Gyalpo. Likewise, Pao Hongri Monastery, which was established in and around 1568 by the second reincarnation of Rigzin Gyodemchen, Ngari Rigzin Ligdenche, which symbolizes the presence of hermits during that time. In the biography of Terten Migyur Dorji by Nedo Karma Chagme Rinpoche, it clearly mentions that Terten Namkha Jigmee's Tumo practice. Because of the instructions of Tumo practice, there were about thousands of practitioners who could survive without any clothes, just wearing single cotton clothes in the mountains. Today, that meaning in the 17th century when he was writing this, the biography of Terten Migyur Dorji, there were around 500 practitioners directly influenced by the teachings based on the accomplishment of Vidyadharas, Rigzin Sogdrup, which was revealed from Changlari Nyingpo, Tagata Shiding, Takdongrong and Pamurong by Gyawal Hatsun Chimbo in 1647. So this clearly indicates that there were many practitioners as well as the meditation centers in Sikkim. Likewise, later in Pema Yangtze, during the time of Gyawal Hatsun Chimbo, it's clearly mentioned in the Chai Rinpoche, the code of conduct, the moral code of conduct of the monastery. There are around 6 Chai Rinpoche. We are in search of this. It is clearly mentioned that Trupthop Delyu Tende Nyustachi Ritsu Tukpa Ngapchu. That means accomplished master, 21 accomplished master, as well as 50 practitioners who could maintain mountain retreat. So this clearly indicates that there were Dubdas or the meditation centers in Sikkim. But however, a closer examination reveals that Sheda, the monastic institution, which comprised of a school, college and university, only came into being in 17th century, during the reign of Chogyal, Chakdor Namgyal, the third Chogyal, and Dzogchen Jigmee Po, his root guru. These developments are well documented in the collected works of the third Gyawal Hatsun Chimbo, Takdong Jigmee Po. Likewise, the biography of 3 lamas, Lama Tsenjen Sum Denjong Ne La Phepsu, and the history of Sikkim, the real history of Sikkim. So without much time, and another significant historical kind of perspective is that we could trace that there were no Shedas until Chogyal Chakdong Namgyal and Chakdong Jigmee Po, because in the collected works of Lochen Dharmashri, he has clearly mentioned that during the time of Chogyal Tensung Namgyal, the second Chogyal, the monks, the Pema Yangtze used to send young batches of monks to Mindruling, that is in Tibet, central Tibet, where they studied there. After coming back, they were teaching in Sikkim. So this can be the other source. Anyway, Pema Yangtze Monastery was the first monastery to establish the dual system of monastic institution as well as the meditation center, Sheda and Dubda, even following the Vinaya discipline and for ordained monks. In Sikkim, the king mandated that middle son of every family around Pema Yangtze Monastery were assembled and enrolled as a monk. The families were responsible for supporting the monastery's monk, enabling them to focus on studies and meditation without hardship. The Chogyal enforced a written agreement linking 108 monks, Tasang Gyadangge, with 108 families to support the monks. So this is how the development of monastic institution came into being in Sikkim. Here I want to argue to David MacDonald's work, which is touring in Sikkim. He stated that the maintenance of the monasteries forms a great drag on the lay portion of the population for lamas, because lamas are non-productive and have to be fed and clothed by their lay fellow countrymen. I could not agree much on this. In traditional Buddhist kind of societies, lamas were far more than people simply receiving support from the community. They were essential partners in community life. Lamas served as teacher. They educated people not only about writing and reading, but they taught the importance of life. They served as healers, using traditional medicines, herbs, and spiritual practices. They could help people, kind of recover from illness. Likewise, they served as counselors. During difficult times, people come up to Lama for advice and comfort. Likewise, Lamas served as spiritual guides. They helped communities through important life moments from births to death. Community leaders, they were often, kind of bridge communicating between the lay people and the government, as we can clearly see in the royal history of Sikkim. MacDonald's characterization of lamas as non-productive ignores their profound contribution to the spiritual, social, and a cultural fabric of their communities. The relationship between lamas and the lay people is an exemplar of interdependence. We talk about interdependence, where mutual support preserves both spiritual values as well as societal harmony. As stated earlier, the School of Exposition, the monastic institution, as well as the meditation centers were formed at Pema Yangtze within Nyingma tradition. And when we look at the Kagyu tradition, during the time of Chogyal Gyurmet Namgyal, he established Karma Raptenling Monastery in Ralang and assigned the communities between Tista and Rangit to support the monastery. The 12th Gyawang Karmapa Changchup Dorji consecrated the monastery from Tibet, and during the 14th Gyawang Karmapa Thekcho Dorji, the monastic educational continued, marking the formation of monastic education within the frame of Kagyu tradition in Sikkim. Over the past 1,225 years, that means from 8th century, many monasteries have been built. However, invasion by outsiders led to the destructions. We have examples like Peling. There used to be a monastery, but today there is no even the trace, no even the ruins. Pado Monastery. So these were the kind of destructions that had happened, akin to the paintings swept away by the rivers. At present, in 2024, my research is based on contemporary to 2024. There are 99 monastic institutions attached to various monasteries across the state. These institutions are government aided and are run according to the monastic tradition throughout a certain amount of general education. The modern institutionalization of monastic education in Sikkim began with the establishment of Inche Lama School. Inche Monastic School in 1909 by His Highness the 10th Chogyal Sikyong Tugu, and in 1958, Chogyal Tashi Namgyal and His Eminence the 9th Kyabje Khachur Rinpoche started Pema Yangtze Monastic School, further strengthening the Buddhist academic tradition in Sikkim. The importance of monastic education in governments was further reinforced by the historical notifications from the judicial department that all the monks from different monasteries have to come up to their Highness and have to give the examinations. So these were very important part of how the monastic institution formed during the time of Chogyal. So, having traced the foundational narrative of Sheda and Drupda in Sikkim, we now turn on attention to the educational structure within the region's monastic institution. There is a book named Educational Change in Sikkim by Jangira and Isko, where they have characterized Sikkim's monastic institution as informal, which overlooks the deeply structured and institutionalized nature of monastic education before Sikkim's merger in 1975. Before that, monastic institutions were not only a center for religious learnings, but also played a fundamental role in government and cultural identity. Monastic education was deeply linked to the state affairs because Sikkim's government was structured within two frames, Lade and Mide, spiritual as well as temporal. This dual structure reflects how monasteries were integral to the both political administration and moral guidance. The official language of government's administration and monastic education was classical Tibetan, Chogyal, reinforcing their structured nature. Monastic institutions such as Pema Yangtze, Tashiding, Pensang, Ralang, Rumtek, and Fodong followed well-defined curricula with formal roles for teachers and students, supported and endorsed by the government. To dismiss monastic institution as informal by Jangira and Isko is to diminish its historical significance. In reality, it was well-established, state-recognized system that shaped Sikkim, intellectuals, religious, and political landscape. And monastic institution in Sikkim remain highly structured, though it varies slightly across Tibetan schools of thoughts. In Nyingma tradition, it progresses through 5 different stages: Shirim Lobda, Nyendo, Uma, Tenchu, and Loben. In Shirim Lobda, it's an 8-year foundational stage, and Nyendo or Selov is 1 year of preparatory course. Uma is a secondary and senior secondary course, a 4-year intermediate course, and Tenchu or college level, that is of 3-year advanced Buddhist studies program, and Lopen, the Acharya level, or 2-year higher Buddhist studies courses. These levels collectively forms as Lobda and Sheda. Even sometimes it is referred as Yigda also. In Tibet, the term Yigda is used, but in Sikkim, we use Lobda. Most monastic institutions in Sikkim are affiliated either directly or indirectly to the Denjong Gene Lekhung. And nowadays people use Dharma Vibhag. I don't know why. It has never been Dharma Vibhag. Gene Lekhung. Deshung Gene Lekhung. Ecclesiastical department. How it translated, it's a matter of research and study. But in recent years, in monastic institutions such as mathematics and English has also been introduced with the support from Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan under Education Department, Government of Sikkim. So after completing these stages of studies, these young monks either go to the opt to the higher level education, such as in Sikkim Government Institute of Higher Nyingma Studies, Didan Nyingma Lama Sheda in Sikkim, Thegui Leksheling Sheda in Martam, and Taksi Sheda in Bojagari, and Rumtek Karmashri Nalanda in Rumtek. Apart from Sikkim, if students wants to take deeper level of Buddhist philosophies, then they might enroll at Ngagyur Nyingma Institute in Mysore, Ngagyur Tholop Dogyu Lekshiling Sheda in Dehradun, and Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Saranath. After completion of their studies, now when we talk about the career of monks, some become village monk, serving their communities. Other takes an administrative or spiritual roles within monasteries such as Kyenyer, Chinyer, Chutim, Gedel, Umze, Dojilopen, Chikyap, Tungje, so forth. Certain graduates join government sector using their degrees for employment. Some dedicate their life to meditation and retreat, either through 3 years, 3 months, 3 days program, or long life meditation, or either become Dharma teachers, serving in different Dharma centers. Some becomes researchers or volunteers in this society. While monastic education has evolved over time, but Sikkim Government Institute of Higher Nyingma Studies Sheda, Nyingma Lama Sheda, remains the only government recognized institution offering higher level of Buddhist degrees. Now, NIT offers Buddhist and Tibetan studies as well as Sikkim University too. Now I will talk briefly about Sikkim Government Institute of Higher Nyingma Studies. Though Rinpoche have already kind of given speeches on the background of Sheda. So without digging into past history, I just want to touch upon the as Rinpoche said, Sheda was under ecclesiastical department, but it came under education department according to the allocation of business rule. And Sheda was affiliated to Sampuranan Sanskrit University, as a provisional affiliation was granted by Sampuranan Sanskrit University on 1st March 1983. After completing all the formalities, including an inspection of the institution headed by Vice Chancellor, on 9th and 10th June 1983, temporary affiliation was granted by the university in the same year. After a gap of 10 years, in 1995, the permanent affiliation was granted to the Sheda by letter number G2173 in 1995. Later, the Home Department, Government of Sikkim, declares that Sikkim Government Institute of Higher Nyingma Studies Sheda is a recognized postgraduate institution for studies up to master level in March 1995. Sikkim Government Institute of Higher Nyingma Studies Sheda was also listed under Section 2F and 12B of the UGC Act 1956 in 2000. As I said, that from ecclesiastical department to education department, it was under the allocation of business rule number 42 of 1994. The institute has been characterized under Government Colleges and Institute 10.303.103 within the university and a higher education head of 03, the education department. In 2015, following a request from the then principal, our chairperson, the education department issued a notification where students were provided with stipend from 200 to 500 for UG and 200 to 800 for PG level students. Likewise, Sheda was accredited with a CGPA of 2.06 on 7-point scale, receiving B grade by NAC on 10th April 2019, marking a significant achievement in its first attempt. So, I do not want to further highlight, but then I would like to thank all of you for listening.